Lance, I don't know what else I can add. I guess I just kept thinking of an interview that Sheila did when we announced the Hunter Green character card. I love Hunter's final statement was about just be a good human being. And you are just a perfect example of that, just being a good human being. For that, on behalf of all of us in this room, on the behalf of my family, previous winners, and all of our Miracle League All-Stars and those who visit the fields, it is my honor to present you with the 2025 Joe Nuxhall Humanitarian Award. Come on up.
Good time.
First of all, let me say that in the days leading up to this, I got a text from Tyler, and he said, "How you doing? You doing okay?" And then I got a text from Chad, and he said, "Hey, how you doing? You doing okay?" And then I got a call from Ron Reedy, "Hey, how you doing? You doing okay?" And I told Kelly, I said, "I know they don't worry about me skipping out on this, but I'm pretty well convinced they think I might pass out." So my goal is to get through this tonight. And for Marty, I want to clear up the story, the specifics of it. It was 1976. I had my Reds Greatest Hits record album, knocked on the door, and I'll never forget that conversation because we saw eye to eye because we were the same height. I thought you'd like that. Please understand what this means to me as someone who, I thought this week, it was the 50th anniversary of the Big Red Machine winning the World Series in 1975. And I thought about all the nights that I fell asleep listening to Reds games. I wouldn't go to bed until the Reds game was over, listening to Marty and Joe. And that meant sometimes hiding the transistor radio underneath my pillow, and my mom and dad would open up the door, and I'd duck down like I was asleep. But I would always stay up until the end, and I wanted to hear Joe Nuxhall's star of the game, because I always tried to guess who it was going to be. And before I go to bed, I'd think in my mind who had the biggest hit in the game, and I can close my eyes, I can hear him say, "We're back in the dugout here at Riverfront Stadium where the Reds have defeated the Dodgers tonight 4-3. Our star of the game had 3 hits, drove in 2 runs, and doubled twice. Pete Rose is our star of the game. We'll be back with Pete after this." And I get chills when I say that because after hearing that interview, I could then go to bed. And that's how my nights ended, listening to Marty and Joe. And as a 9-year-old back in 1975, I would have never imagined I would be here tonight. I can't imagine I'm here tonight right now at age 59. And when you're up here for recognition for an award like this, you think of how you got here. And I've spent a lot of time, and that's been the good thing about the amount of time that's passed what I was told to tonight, because I've thought a lot about my family, and I thought about my parents and how they instilled in me how to treat people and how to work hard. And they were always there for me, every baseball game, every practice. And I tried to carry that over now as a dad with Casey and Peyton for their soccer games and their baseball games. And there were a lot of nights I'd go running through the parking lot at Simon Kenton High School just in time to get to the at-bat to see Casey or see Peyton on the soccer field. And I'm not here without that foundation from my parents to my wife Kelly, who was my intern in Chicago when I was working in TV. That's where we first met. I did not ask her out until her internship was over. I called her 3 times to ask her out, and I hung up the first 3 times. Finally, on the 4th call, I worked up the nerve to ask her out, and she's my best friend. I can't imagine taking this journey without her for everything that we've been through. She picked out the music tonight. I was sitting at the table and I heard a song by Maggie Rose, who is an artist that we heard in Nashville years ago. And I happened to look up to the speaker and I said, "That's Maggie Rose." And I looked at her, I said, "You picked that out, didn't you?" And she did. And that's who she is. She's my best friend. I look at my daughter, Peyton, and I see just a kind, smart, confident, a person who's grown into just a beautiful individual before my very eyes. And I'm so proud of you. And I love you. And I look at Casey. And the first thing that strikes me is this event had to be big because he got a haircut this week. Now, if we could somehow work out a big event involving me like once every 5 weeks, that would be big.
Jealous?
Yeah, well, that's true. I am jealous because I don't need haircuts anymore. You know, I stop on Casey because of the significance that he's had on my life. And he changed my life. And he is 25. When he was about 2.5, he was diagnosed with leukemia and spent a lot of time in the hospital going through a lot of things that nobody should ever have to go through, including a bone marrow transplant that saved his life. And he's now 25, and he's happy, and he's healthy, and he's here tonight, and we are very blessed for that. It was something he said to me in the hospital one night that has stuck with me ever since. We were at Children's Hospital, and Kelly would stay with Casey during the day while I was on the radio at that time, and then I would come over after my show was over at 6, and I'd spend the night with Casey. And this was a day that was a really rough day for him. His hair had fallen out. He had a port in his chest. He had lines and tubes sticking out that were plugged into machines making various noises. He had thrown up a lot that day. It was just a really rough day. And it's incredibly difficult as a parent to watch your child go through a day like that. And we had a routine at the end of the night. We'd say a prayer, and I'd kiss him on the head and tuck him under the covers, and he'd go to bed, and I'd watch TV in the corner in the hospital room. And that night I said to him, because it was such a rough day, I said to him, "Tomorrow's going to be a good day." And he looked at me as a 4-year-old sitting in the hospital with tubes sticking out and plugged into machines, and he said, "Did I have a bad day today?" And I've never forgotten that, because it was his perspective on what he was going through. and the bravery to go through it. And it was a message being delivered by someone who was 4 to an adult who would complain about a traffic jam that day or a bad show. And I learned in that very moment that I wasn't going to have bad days because I owed it to him. He was having the worst of days for a long period of time, but his perspective wasn't from that standpoint. He didn't know it was a bad day. And so I think that's the connection to the Nuxhall Miracle League fields and the foundation. And it's an experience where there's no bad days. It's joy and smiles and laughter and things that can be done as opposed to things that can't be done. And those words from a 4-year-old connecting to me have connected to what's happening here. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. Because I work in an industry, in a business where there's a lot of ranting and raving and screaming, and whoever screams the loudest gets the most attention. And whoever says the most outrageous things gets the most clicks and views. And I'm not wired that way. And sometimes I wonder if I'm wired to stay in this business the way the business is. But to see the smiles and the joy that the Nuxhall Miracle League fields bring, and to experience that, earlier today when Peyton arrived, we were telling her about what tonight was going to be like, and Kelly said, "You're just going to meet a lot of really cool and nice people." And I couldn't have said it any better. We are so blessed to have developed the friendships that we have through our visits to the Miracle Leagues, and with Tyler and Ron and Jackie and Chad and Larry, and I shouldn't start naming names because I'm going to forget names, but it's overwhelming to feel included in what's going on here because it's so good. And I like good things. I like happy things. I get fired up on the radio because I've got the best job in the world. I get to talk sports in the town I grew up in. And I think of that every day. And I think of how blessed I am with my family and to be involved with this foundation. And I hope I've done justice tonight to what's going on here and what it means to me. And I'll say this. I know Nuxie's looking down. Joe, I hope I did you proud tonight. And I'm an old left-hander, and I'm going to round third tonight and head home with the coolest thing that I've ever won. Thank you.